There is a place on this planet where people look at doctors with suspicion, not because they distrust science, but because they simply don't need them very often. Women in their 90s still grow their own food. Men over 100 play chess with neighbors after lunch. People who by every modern medical standard should be bedridden have been walking miles a day for decades. No cane, no wheelchair, no blood pressure medication. This place is real. It's a Japanese island called Okinawa. And what happens there contradicts almost everything the health industry has been trying to sell you. No $500 supplements, no trendy 3-week diet, no protein shakes, no biohacking gadgets. Just real food, a different rhythm of life, and one specific secret you'll learn today that could change the way your body works. It's not just what they eat, it's how they live. And there is one habit, so simple your first reaction will be that it can't possibly work, that is arguably the most important discovery nutrition science has made in 50 years. Stay with me, because that's the biggest reveal. Once you get it, you'll never look at your plate the same way again. My name is Oliver, and this channel exists for one reason. I got tired of watching people wreck their health chasing advice that completely changes every 6 months. One year it's low carb, the next it's vegan, then carnivore, then intermittent fasting, then all protein, then cut the protein. It sounds like a joke, but this is the actual reality of the modern wellness market. Meanwhile, the people of Okinawa have been doing the same thing for centuries and outliving everyone who follows the latest fad. So today I'm going to show you, with real data and practical examples, what makes the Okinawan diet and lifestyle so powerful. But first, the backstory matters. Okinawa is a chain of islands at the far southern tip of Japan. For centuries, it was an independent kingdom, the Ryukyu Kingdom, and that history means its culture, cuisine, and customs are deeply different from mainland Japan. For decades, it held the highest concentration of centenarians anywhere on Earth. In the United States, there are roughly 2 centenarians per 100,000 people. In Okinawa, that number has historically been 4 to 5 times higher. And these aren't people lying in hospital beds. They're functional, active, and cognitively sharp. In the early 2000s, researcher Dan Buettner, working with National Geographic, identified 5 regions where people consistently lived longer and healthier, calling them the Blue Zones. Okinawa, Sardinia in Italy, Loma Linda in California, Nicoya in Costa Rica, and Ikaria in Greece. What they share isn't genetics, climate, or luck. It's shared behaviors that repeat across all 5 regions, regardless of culture or language. Okinawa is the most studied of all of them. When most Americans think of Japanese food, they think of rice. But for centuries, especially before World War II, the foundational food of the Okinawan diet wasn't rice. It was the purple sweet potato, known locally as beni imo. While the rest of Japan ate white rice as its caloric base, a high glycemic carb that causes rapid blood sugar spikes, Okinawa ate purple sweet potato. White rice has a glycemic index around 72. Sweet potato sits between 44 and 54, which means it raises blood sugar gradually and steadily. Less insulin spiking, less chronic inflammation, significantly lower risk of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. The purple variety also contains something the orange variety doesn't in the same concentration: anthocyanins. These pigments give it that deep color and are extraordinarily potent antioxidants, more powerful than vitamin C and vitamin E in several studies. Antioxidants neutralize free radicals, the unstable molecules that damage cells and accelerate aging. In traditional Okinawa, this potato represented 60 to 70% of daily calories. It wasn't a side dish, it was the meal. When your primary fuel source is stable, antioxidant-rich, and non-inflammatory, your body can do what it was designed to do: repair and renew. You don't have to eliminate rice from your diet, but swapping it for sweet potato a few times a week, or using it where you'd normally reach for pasta or bread, can noticeably shift your energy throughout the day. That said, the sweet potato only tells part of the story. When researchers analyzed the full traditional Okinawan diet, they found that roughly 80 to 90% of calories came from plant sources. Not entirely vegetarian, but overwhelmingly plant-based, and not out of poverty or necessity. It was a cultural choice refined over thousands of years. The plants that appear most prominently include bitter melon, called goya, which is one of the most bitter vegetables on Earth, and, precisely because of that, one of the most bioactive. Bitterness in vegetables signals phytochemicals with anti-inflammatory, anti-diabetic, and anti-cancer properties. Sea vegetables like kombu and wakame provide iodine, essential for thyroid function and metabolic regulation, a nutrient most inland Americans are chronically low on. Tofu serves as the primary protein source, alongside rotating dark leafy greens and colorful vegetables. Why does this plant dominance matter so much? The science is consistent. Diets rich in diverse plant foods are associated with lower risk of virtually every major chronic disease. The central mechanism is inflammation. Chronic, low-grade inflammation is what researchers increasingly call the real silent driver of aging. You can't feel it, it doesn't hurt, but it quietly erodes blood vessel walls, damages DNA, and overloads the immune system year after year. Plant foods, especially colorful, bitter, and dark leafy varieties, carry compounds that modulate inflammation downward. A diet heavy in ultra-processed foods, refined sugar, and industrial seed oils does the opposite. It feeds the inflammation. Which brings up the third pillar, the near total absence of processed food. And I want to be direct here because this isn't a footnote, it's structural. When I say ultra-processed, I'm not only talking about chips and soda. I mean store-bought bread with a 12-ingredient label, packaged cookies, instant noodles, deli meats, margarine, bottled sauces, sugary breakfast cereals, flavored yogurts. These products were engineered to be consumed in excess. They engage the brain's reward systems in ways that resemble addictive substances, and they contain ingredient combinations the human digestive system had never encountered before the 20th century. The result is a body in constant low-level metabolic conflict, fighting toxins, managing insulin swings, signaling inflammation, trying to maintain balance while being bombarded with inputs it wasn't designed to handle. In traditional Okinawa, food went from soil to pot. No factories, no preservatives, no emulsifiers. The body wasn't fighting its own food supply. That freed up metabolic energy for cellular repair, hormonal regulation, and immune maintenance. Tragically, this is changing. After World War II, when American troops occupied Okinawa, Western dietary patterns began filtering in. Fast food, processed products, more red meat. Younger generations of Okinawans who grew up on a westernized diet now have obesity and chronic disease rates far higher than their grandparents. The longevity advantage wasn't genetic, it was dietary, and it can be lost in a single generation. On protein, Okinawans eat it, but in much smaller amounts than the Western standard and from different sources, primarily tofu, small fatty fish rich in omega-3s, and only occasional red meat. This matters because a metabolic pathway called mTOR, activated primarily by animal protein, drives muscle repair in the right doses, but accelerates cellular aging and raises cancer risk when chronically elevated. Traditional Okinawans show consistently lower chronic mTOR activation than Western populations. The takeaway isn't to cut protein, it's that source and amount matter far more than the fitness industry suggests. Everything I've covered so far is important, but what I'm about to share is different. It sounds almost too simple, like something a grandmother would say rather than a scientist. And that's exactly why most people dismiss it. The people of Okinawa follow a principle called hara hachi bu. In English, eat until you are 80% full. It's rooted in Confucianism and has been preserved in Okinawan food culture for centuries. Some families still say it before every meal, almost like a grace. The physiological implications run much deeper than the phrase suggests. Here's the core problem with eating until you're completely full. The digestive system operates with a built-in signal delay. Your stomach needs roughly 15 to 20 minutes to send satiety signals to your brain. By the time you feel full, you've almost certainly already eaten more than your body needed. If you consistently eat to 100% satisfaction, you're effectively consuming at 110 or 120% of actual need. That excess doesn't have to be dramatic to compound significantly. Just 100 extra calories per day, one cookie, adds up to roughly 10 pounds of accumulated fat over 10 years. Not from binging, just from never stopping at 80%. When you apply hara hachibu consistently, several things happen at once. You eliminate caloric excess without counting a single calorie, without a nap, without the cognitive burden of a diet. You avoid digestive overload. A too full stomach demands more blood flow and energy, pulling resources from other functions. Insulin levels stay lower because there's less glucose and protein circulating than your metabolism would otherwise have to manage. And you activate, in a gentle and sustainable way, something that closely resembles the most evidence-backed intervention for lifespan extension ever studied, caloric restriction. Researchers from the Okinawa Centenarian Study estimated that traditional Okinawans consumed between 10 and 40% fewer calories than mainland Japanese adults of the same era, consistently associated with lower IGF-1 levels and reduced inflammatory markers across the board. What makes hara hachibu so elegant is this. It is not a diet. You don't have to change what you eat, just when you stop. In modern America, the norm is to eat until stuffed, supersized portions, snacking through Netflix, going back for seconds out of politeness. These habits work directly against the body's natural satiety signaling. In Okinawa, the norm runs opposite. The phrase is embedded in the rhythm of eating and becomes automatic over time. Not willpower, just a default setting. The science goes further. Proteins called sirtuins, particularly SIRT1 and SIRT3, are directly linked to cellular aging, and one of their primary activators is caloric restriction. When you consistently eat below maximum capacity, the body activates genetic programs for cellular repair, mitochondrial efficiency, and reduced inflammation. Related is autophagy, the process by which cells identify and recycle damaged components, essentially the body's internal cleaning system. Autophagy is activated by caloric restraint, and its deficiency is linked to neurodegeneration and cancer. Yoshinori Osumi won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2016 for this research. Hara-Hachi-Bu, practiced daily over a lifetime, creates exactly the conditions that support both. This is also why intermittent fasting generates real, documented benefits: improved insulin sensitivity, lower inflammation, activated autophagy. Those benefits are genuine. But Okinawans never needed a fasting protocol because Hara-Hachi-Bu, combined with naturally smaller meals, creates the same metabolic windows organically. Same principle, sustained effortlessly across a lifetime instead of requiring daily willpower. To apply it, eat slowly and deliberately. Put your fork down between bites. Have a real conversation at the table. Give the satiety signal time to arrive before you've already gone past the 80% mark. Serve yourself less than usual, and don't put seconds within easy reach. The small physical friction of getting up and going back to the kitchen does more than you'd think. And practice noticing. When you're almost satisfied but not quite stuffed, stop. Wait 10 minutes. In most cases, you were already there. Here's where people get tripped up. They hear about the diet, they understand Hara-Hachi-Bu, and they start thinking food is the whole story. It isn't. Nutrition is the foundation, but 3 additional factors are critical, and each one has direct, measurable physiological effects. Think of the diet as the foundation, and these 3 as the structural walls. Without them, the foundation doesn't hold. The first is movement. Not the kind you're probably thinking of. Okinawans don't go to the gym or run marathons. They simply never stop moving. Walking to the market, tending gardens, climbing stairs, doing housework by hand, practicing gentle karate as a meditative rather than competitive activity. Movement is woven so thoroughly into daily life that it needs no planning or motivation. There's a concept called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, all the calories burned outside of formal exercise. Research shows NEAT can vary by up to 2,000 calories per day between a naturally active and a sedentary person. A study in the Annals of Internal Medicine found that prolonged sitting raises mortality, regardless of how much formal exercise someone does. The gym hour doesn't cancel the 8 hours in a chair. Okinawans never created that problem. Constant gentle movement also keeps joints lubricated, regulates cortisol effectively, improves sleep, and sustains the lymphatic system. And it remains completely feasible for 100 years. The second factor genuinely surprises people when it's framed as a health intervention: close friends. In Okinawa, there's a tradition called the moai, roughly translated as meeting for a common purpose. A moai is a small group, typically 5 to 10 people, that forms in childhood and stays together for life. They meet regularly, share meals, support each other financially during hardship, celebrate milestones, and show up during illness and grief. It's an organic, lifelong social safety net built by human commitment rather than institutions. In 2023, the US Surgeon General declared loneliness a public health epidemic, with health impact equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Studies show social isolation increases risk of early death by up to 26%, elevates inflammatory markers including interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, and that strong social connection is associated with better immune function, lower blood pressure, and greater stress resilience. The moai ensures no one in Okinawa ages alone. That social certainty regulates the nervous system deeply. Lower baseline cortisol, activated oxytocin, reduced allostatic load. In America, we have hundreds of followers and sometimes no one to call on a Friday night. We've replaced deep conversation with text threads and physical presence with digital presence. The human body wasn't built for that. Real connection, eye contact, shared laughter, comfortable silence beside someone you trust is not optional. It's biological. The third element is ikigai. You've probably seen it packaged in the West as a 4-circle diagram, the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. That framing misses the point. In Okinawa, when researchers asked centenarians about their ikigai, the answers were tending my garden, watching my grandchildren grow, making pottery before sunrise, teaching kids to fish. It's not a grand mission. It's simply a reason to get out of bed tomorrow. Something, anything, that gives meaning to the day. The body's response to that sense of purpose is not metaphorical. A study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, following over 9,000 participants, found that those with a strong sense of purpose had lower mortality and lower cardiovascular risk. Research in JAMA linked purpose to better cognitive function and slower decline in older adults. The mechanism runs through the stress response. Purpose reduces allostatic load. When you have somewhere meaningful to go, the nervous system operates differently. Less chronic activation of the stress axis, lower baseline cortisol, less ambient anxiety. There's a documented Japanese phenomenon sometimes called death by retirement, where men who spent decades absorbed in their professional identity, upon abruptly stopping, experience rapid health deterioration within a few years. Not because work kept them physically active, but because work was their ikigai. In Okinawa, people don't retire in the Western sense. They keep doing something that matters, at a slower pace, but they never fully stop. Every time research reveals the habits of a long-lived population, what happens next is predictable. The internet floods with posts about the one food Japanese people eat to live past 100. Supplement companies launch purple sweet potato capsules. Wellness influencers post Goya recipes. Podcasters explain ikigai in 10 minutes. People copy one isolated element and get disappointed when nothing changes. This is called nutritional reductionism, and it's one of the most persistent mistakes in the modern health conversation. There is no single food that saves you. The purple sweet potato works within a system. It functions as the caloric base of a plate that also has seaweed, tofu, and bitter melon, eaten by someone who stops before they're full, who slept well because they moved naturally all day, who has 5 close friends who'd notice if they disappeared, and who has a garden to tend in the morning. You can eat purple sweet potato every day and still drink soda at dinner, sleep 5 hours, have no one to call, and wake up with no reason to be alive. It won't work. The potato is not the medicine. The system is. Okinawa is not a list of dietary rules. It's an integrated way of living. The food takes care of the body. Hara Hachibu takes care of the relationship with food. Natural movement keeps the body functional. The moai sustains the mind and spirit. Ikigai gives the whole structure a reason to continue. Remove any one of those and the structure weakens. Real, lasting change comes from choosing a direction, not chasing a tactic. The direction is less industrial, more natural. Less rushing, more presence. Less isolation, more genuine connection. Less quantity, more quality. I'm not going to leave you with a list of 20 things to do. That would be the opposite of everything Okinawa stands for. Just 3. Eat more foods that existed before the food industry did. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, quality protein in reasonable amounts. It doesn't have to be perfect or radical, just more real than what you're eating today. That shift, over months and years, changes your inflammatory baseline and metabolic trajectory in ways no supplement can replicate. Stop eating before you feel completely full. Eat slowly. Pay attention. When you're almost satisfied, not stuffed, just almost there, stop. Wait 15 minutes. This single change, applied consistently, can reshape your weight, your energy, and your relationship with food without one diet, 1 calorie counted, or any suffering. Invest in real relationships, not followers, not likes. Call the friend you haven't talked to in months. Make that dinner that keeps getting postponed. Show up for the people already in your life. The research on this is unambiguous. It will do more for your long-term health than any supplement you'll ever buy. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these Okinawan principles do you already practice, even without knowing it had a name? And which one feels hardest to apply in your current life? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. If this video brought you value, share it with someone who needs it. A family member struggling with their health, a friend who cycled through every diet without results, someone who just needs a different lens on how to live. Hit subscribe if you want more. Worth your time. See you in the next one.